Often they say that when you learn that you've been lied to, your understanding of the world changes. And this is really the point we are at. We are now understanding that we've been lied time and over again about the main cause of climate change. In the context of climate change, women, indigenous peoples. My name is Elisa Morgera. I'm the UN Special Rapporteur on climate change and human rights. And my role is to clarify state obligations to protect human rights in the context of climate change.
You, the parties, now stand to promote the effective implementation of the Convention.
The United States has agreed to reduce the output of so-called greenhouse gases by 7%. There are those who argue this will make U.S. business less competitive.
More than 10,000 delegates, including scientists, government officials and activists, are taking part in COP15.
The talks, called COP19, come after last year's round saw little progress on a green climate fund.
There are not very many heads of state or government. What does that say about how these talks are seen and how seriously the issues are being treated?
The COP30 climate summit officially opened in Brazil yesterday.
It is really significant that after 30 years of COPs, we are catching up with what has been at least 60 years of climate disinformation that was in fact put in place over time with evolving strategies by the fossil fuel industry. And the realization has been that 60 years of that disinformation has made progress on climate change very, very difficult. So in my report this year to the Human Rights Council, I have relied on a large body of independent research that has called out the playbook of climate obstruction by the fossil fuel industry. It is very deeply embedded in PR and advertising. In fact, we don't realize that we are exposed daily, if not more, to advertising either directly or indirectly related to the fossil fuel industry.
Our premium products, industry-leading technology, and friendly hospitality help you go the extra mile.
Shell experts are working on a wind project that could power 6 million homes.
Let's think about like sports, sponsorship as well. Most of our major international events have sponsorship from fossil fuel companies. The messaging we're getting is that we can't live without fossil fuels, that there is no real alternative, that may be very dangerous, that may not allow us to live in a prosperous ways. The industry already had back then their own scientists telling them that their activities would lead to climate change, to a planetary crisis. And they still decided not only to go ahead with their activities. To this day, we're expanding fossil fuel extraction everywhere in the world, and to keep the public away from this information. And not only that, but actually actively disinforming them, so they will take them longer and longer and longer to figure out the direct link between fossil fuels and this planetary crisis of climate change, nature loss, toxic pollution, and crucially, economic inequality.
A necessidade de os povos indígenas e comunidades tradicionais serem ouvidos é urgente, porém, nas mesas de negociações, os povos indígenas, entre outros segmentos da sociedade, não têm participação.
The fossil fuel industry has also exerted significant influence on academia and research. This is also part of the playbook and a way to disinform and misinform the public. On the one hand, they have attacked and smeared climate scientists, but on the other hand, they've also manufactured science that is not accurate. And this has happened through funding to universities, to think tanks, with strings attached, asking them to produce research, for instance, on either giving a sense that there are some benefits to certain fossil fuels, or that there is a way for the fossil fuel industry still to contribute to what they call transitional fuels, which serves to distract from that imperative, scientific imperative, and in fact, legal imperative of phasing out fossil fuels. There's been also investigative journalism, really tracing down to 7 major media companies who were not only supporting fossil fuel advertising, but in fact producing themselves in-house content for fossil fuel companies. So clearly these are all like very complementary and misleading practices that really make even experts struggle to get to the truth. In my report, I mentioned also a few recommendations around criminalizing actions related to disinformation, including potentially for PR firms and media. It is a very bold recommendation, and it's really meant to start a debate into understanding how we can create a stronger framework of accountability. And the idea is really showing that on the one hand, of course, we need to protect freedom of expression. Everyone who has their positions or doubts about climate science and about climate action is free to share these. But this point about preventing climate disinformation is about the undue commercial influence in our public debates. So in my report, I used the term defossilized knowledge and information systems. And this was really to show that we need to be very proactive in responding to the playbook, but also we need governments to create legislation around, of course, greenwashing, but also requiring all private actors to be transparent about any funding they may receive from fossil fuel companies. We have a human right to information. The information needs to be trustworthy, and it needs to allow all of us to understand whether our governments and whether companies are truly considering our human rights. Media, big tech, PR companies who may still be working with fossil fuel companies, they should be aware that you are essentially contributing to human rights harm and to the prevention of the protection of everyone's human rights in the context of the climate crisis.
Thank you for watching. Hit that like button and leave us a comment to let us know what you thought about anything we covered this week. And don't forget to follow us on social media. The links are in the description, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter for updates from the show.